definitely racing.
Teresa Garcia didn't know what she was getting herself into.
It was definitely scary.
But how did she end up here? Let's start from the beginning.
He's been playing for over 10 years.
Okay, maybe just the day before when Teresa and her boyfriend Sheldon were playing disc golf. They were practicing for Sheldon's tournament the next day, and after they finished playing, the pair stored his box of discs in his truck.
There were some very momentous ones from previous tournaments that he had played in. He had some signed discs, one from his favorite pro, David Feldberg.
Remember that name, it'll come in handy later. Now fast forward to the next morning. Teresa and Sheldon got quite the shock.
We see that the trunk bed is like wide open and we're like, oh, that's not a good sign.
The discs were gone.
I was like, oh, I'm gonna miss those because there's a lot of tournaments that I did like in high school and junior high.
But Sheldon had no time to worry. He had to get to his tournament, so Teresa jumped into action.
I immediately started thinking to myself what we could do.
Right after the discs went missing, Teresa posted on Facebook asking the disc golf community for help. And within moments, she was floored to see the dozens of messages flood in for people trying to help her find those discs.
It was kind of like, you hurt our team, we're gonna come after you, all as one kind of community. It was really incredible.
But she wasn't surprised.
We just are part of a community that really cares about each other. Everyone just wants to be there and be a supportive person to bring you up, not only in the sport, but also personally.
It wasn't long before they made a breakthrough.
And lo and behold, right there, Facebook Marketplace, was 40 Frisbees in the same box. We knew right away we had to act fast.
She messaged the thief, called the police, and set up the sting operation. After waiting in a parking lot, she saw him walking up with her and Sheldon's prized possessions.
The thief is telling me like, oh, I used to play with my dad, that's how I got these, and I'm getting rid of them because I'm moving.
Thankfully, she didn't have to make small talk for long. The police arrived and made the arrest.
It was obviously so much joy and so much happiness, but as we got home, we were sitting there like treasuring the fact we had the discs back, and we were looking at them, and we started seeing all of the numbers and names were Sharpied off.
When the thief tried to cover his tracks, he destroyed an autographed disc signed by Sheldon's favorite. You remember that name, David Feldberg.
And so it was just kind of this like a little bit of a cloud over the whole thing.
But the disc golf community came to the rescue again. Someone reached out to Feldberg and he signed another disc for Sheldon right away.
I was very surprised because did not think that you'd be able to find another one.
But this sport is one of undying support. A small but mighty community that is only growing.
I really like how inclusive everyone is.
Disc golf itself has more than doubled in this last year alone, just because it's such a safe, socially distant, outdoors thing to do. That really helped a lot of people, myself included, stay sane during this crazy, unpredictable time.
And in a time where unprecedented is the norm, it strangely took a true crime story about disc golf to show the world the incredible team behind this individual sport. For The Race, I'm Alexa Liaco. To understand life in the farthest corners of America, you have to see it. The beauty of nature, the rugged, unforgiving cold, and the people of Alaska. It's the people across a state more than twice the size of Texas, with traditions as old as the mountains, who will show you what perseverance through a crisis really looks like. We learned firsthand what it takes to protect these rural communities from COVID-19. A journey that began thousands of miles away. After 2 flights and a COVID screening at the airport, we arrived in Fairbanks, Alaska. The next morning, we were up before the sun, an easy task when it rises at 9:30 a.m. We were about to embark on a trip dedicated pharmacists make every day to drop off vaccines in Alaska's remote villages. But not before one more COVID-19 test.
Up to about right there, twirl it to the other side.
Oh gosh, I've never done this on myself.
Once we were cleared for travel, we headed to the pharmacy to meet Dan Nelson.
So first thing is just come in, get all the vaccines prepared.
Each morning, he begins loading up needles, syringes, and coolers of the vaccine.
We transport some of it frozen and some of it thawed.
Every trip to each village is different. Dan has to calculate how far and how long he'll travel to make sure the vaccines don't spoil.
We only have like so many hours of ground or air transport.
The vaccines must stay just cold enough, but it's a careful balance. Alaska's sub-zero temperatures can make doses too cold and ruin them.
About -5 right now.
They must also be packed tightly.
They're really sensitive. to any sort of vibration or anything like that, so we have to put it in all sorts of padding.
With the supplies ready, it's time to head to Tok, a village of fewer than 1,300 people, more than 200 miles away.
Hop on the airplane, take it as our taxi cab, essentially.
Everyone has seatbelts fastened, correct?
Yep.
Yes. All right, master on, bags on.
After a 1-hour flight, we landed in Tok.
One, and there's number two.
We arrived to the clinic with moments to spare before patients started checking in.
Hi, here for your COVID shot.
That's when Dan handed off the prized cargo to the team.
Did you have any problems for the last dose?
It takes hours of work all to deliver just 100 doses. But it's work this pharmacist says.
We're really proud of, I think, a little bit over 5,000, about 5,500 doses, probably by the end of the day today, that we will have administered. About half of those are out in our rural areas. And we had a ski plane that delivered, literally, it's landing out on a frozen lake on the ice.
The Tanana Chiefs Conference, a group representing dozens of tribes in Alaska's interior, have even gone by snowmobile and dog sled to deliver vaccines. It's an effort that's helping protect indigenous tribes who have been hit hard by this virus.
You want it in the left arm?
Left arm, yes.
The Alaska Native American Indian populations have been disproportionately affected by COVID. And the problem is when someone gets sick out here in the middle of nowhere, it's not like you just go down to the urgent care clinic or to the emergency room. It's a $20,000 medevac.
For tribal leader Herbert Demet, he's watched friends and family pass away without a chance to receive life-saving care.
I've lost elders that I looked up to, and it's like you lose somebody in a different community, and it affects us all.
For many Native Alaskan tribes, the virus has taken loved ones and tradition away all at once.
We deal with death in a certain way, and we were not able to, deal with it like we usually do.
Daisy Northway dealt with the loss of a child in the midst of the pandemic.
I couldn't even see my son, and he didn't even have COVID. I couldn't go to the hospital. He was gone before I was able to say my last goodbyes.
And when she wanted to lean on her tribal ways the most, she was deprived of her community.
The practice that helps us to renew our spirits, we were no longer able to do that.
That's why these two and so many others rushed to this clinic to get their vaccine, some driving more than 100 miles from surrounding villages.
Doing okay?
Mm-hmm.
I do feel a sense of relief.
Alaska has vaccinated the highest percentage of its population of any state. Even with fewer people, the conditions haven't made it easy.
As a patient, when you come in, you don't see the madness that comes with, supplying this vaccine to the people.
It's a welcome madness and a beacon of light for Daisy.
Having had the shot gives us hope.
A gift Dan says his team will do anything to give.
Just to fly 100 doses, we had to get an airplane, so it's got to cost a lot of money, right?
Thousands of dollars, yeah, upwards of $8,000. But we're glad to be getting people healthy and getting on the other end of this pandemic that we've all been so looking forward to.
It was a happiness we could feel radiating through this isolated, snowy village and all who call it home.
Here is an opportunity that was given to us to allow us life.
A chance they never knew would come from a fragile bottle carried hundreds of miles to help them, one holding the strength to end this community's deep sorrow. For The Race, I'm Alexa Liacco.
In Jacksonville, Florida, Robert Bannon runs a small business coaching and training golfers, both professionals
Woo! Hello.
and beginners.
And we can look at the charts to see how stable that club is. I always had the vision in my mind that I wanted to do something like this, but I wasn't sure how it was going to work, and that was the hard part.
Figuring that out became easier, in part thanks to a government benefit.
My benefit was post 9/11 GI Bill.
Bannon spent more than 2 decades in the Army. He served in Operation Desert Shield and Desert Storm, then as part of the Joint Staff in the Pentagon during 9/11. After, he committed to going to the Middle East, doing 2 tours in Iraq. The post 9/11 GI Bill, when he returned home, paid his tuition and part of his housing at the College of Golf at Kaiser University.
The schooling helped me not only on the technical side on how to teach and how to learn more about the golf swing, but the business of golf was a heavy influence in there.
The money he saved on tuition, he put into the business, built the facility for TPG Golf, and essentially, the GI Bill helped him build a new future post-service. Over the past 75 years since the first version of the GI Bill was passed, it has helped more than 18 million veterans do the same.
The burden that we place on them mentally, how much we stress them in combat and what we ask of them, and the risks that they take, I think what we do for them when they come home is a small price that the entire country pays. It just takes a special individual, to get up every morning and, walk out the door and leave their family and really not know what's on the other side. It's just incredibly important, that we look after all of our military when they get back and try to give them the support they need.
And although well earned by him and many others, he is grateful to have gotten that support through the GI Bill. For The Race, I'm Alicia Nieves.
It's a language born in these mountains, sacred to the Kalispel tribe of northeastern Washington.
We live in the mountains, along the rivers, we hunt and fish. That's our way.
Their language, a dialect called Salish, ties their past to the present.
The easy connection of the world, being connected to the ground, being connected to our ancestors. And language can do that. It gives you that identity.
An identity that could have been lost forever.
We have 4 elders that have the language, and they're it. And so we have to move.
Each day, J.R. Bluff works to keep his heritage alive.
Tempton's Quest's ownership. We believe we are backed into the corner. We believe we don't have tomorrow. It has to happen today.
So he started an immersion school to pass that language down to the next generation. All of the lessons are in Salish. Students who opt into the daily program come to the Salish school after a few hours at the public school across the street. And learning extends far past the Common Core education standards.
The language is healing. It filled a void that I didn't know I had. When the kids have a strong foundation and know who they are and where they come from, that they'll be more successful.
Just when JR saw his language growing strong through his students, the pandemic threatened to take it all away.
Our strength is relationship. You need to be in the seat with me.
It's not the same as being face-to-face. We lose time and we lose language.
To make sure that doesn't happen, the school's teachers are creating Salish lessons online, something they've never done before.
We're gonna figure it out. I don't know, we have to figure it out.
It'll take that extra effort in a place where Wi-Fi is not reliable and instruction is best done in person.
It's a sacred breath. You're not just hearing words, you are actually with me and you're hearing my breath. That's the strength of our language.
While the future of this classroom is left uncertain, the future of this culture is something JR says he will protect his entire life.
Our language has had so many bumps in its 1,000-year history. This is just another bump. It's real in that it affects our community, affects our household, affects our children, affects my teachers, but I know it will pass.
For The Race, I'm Alexa Liaco.